Okay. Hello, everybody. My name is Athena Mitchell. I'm from Somerville Community Corporation, Fresh Source Jobs Program. We welcome you. Happy New Year. Again, we will be having Tufts University present their job opportunity today. So let's get started. Mia?
Yeah, hey there. I'm Mia Bonvini, joined here with Meredith Hicks-Ogburn and then Tim Wood of my team. I'm going to go ahead and share screen. We have a few short slides and we'll be running through some examples of our career site for you. So I'll go ahead and share that. Let's see. Forgive me a minute. Okay. Can everybody see my slides? Okay. Wanted to do some quick introductions. So I will let Meredith introduce herself and then I'll let Tim introduce and I'll follow.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for introducing me, Mia. I am Meredith. I work specifically with the operations groups. Operations kind of consists of our dining, our safety team, which is kind of like our police department and security team, as well as some of our facilities operations. I'm one of the newest people to the team, but I'm happy to be here and introduce you to some of the jobs that we have. Tim?
Hi, I'm Tim Wood. I'm a team lead in talent acquisition, which is recruiting. And I primarily source for IT, although we have somebody else taking over that role. Engineering, I do the fundraising, I do athletics, I do our support group, which is our call center, and procurement, our purchasing group. So those are the areas I have at the moment. Been here 10 years.
Hey there, and again, I'm Mia Bonvini. I work here at Tufts in Talent Acquisition with Meredith and Tim. I support the Office of Vice Provost for Research, as well as some diversity-focused partnerships, programs, and some harder to fill roles. So we are excited to chat with you and wanted to just give you an overview and introduction to Tufts. Tim, I always love your introduction, so I didn't know if you wanted to speak to this slide at all.
Absolutely. So, so I've been here 10 years, and I think if you think of Tufts as a 24/7 like small city, we have everything. So because we have students living here, we have to support them. We have staff and faculty who need to be supported. We have research, we have athletics. So if there's a job out in the world, we probably hire for them here as well. We have physicians and nurses and a police force and a library and an athletic center and coaches and accountants and HR people. So if anybody doing a job search would probably do well to look at Tufts because either in the moment or somewhere down the road, we probably have an opening that would suit pretty much the background of anybody who might be job searching. I think Mia's example that she likes. So once about 5 or 6 years ago, I got a call from a department over in Boston. We have a Boston campus, and they asked me to help them find a mortician. And I had no idea we had one. Often in HR, you find out some of the positions you have when people leave and there's a backfill or an opening. So I had no idea. But we do research, and we do have a mortician who deals with some of the people who donate their bodies to research. So I haven't had one since. I've never done one before in my career of almost 30 years in HR. So again, I think if you look to Tufts, we have dining, obviously. So there's probably a job for everybody who's in a job search at some point, and we're a great employer. We have great benefits, but I think that's why people should always look to us as part of their overall search.
Awesome. Thanks, Tim. And I would be remiss if I didn't kind of go through at the highest level the boilerplate of what Tufts does. I mean, we all know that we are, an institution of education, but ultimately, we're research focused. So Tufts develops innovative solutions for the most complex complex global challenges of our time through teaching, research, and an unparalleled investment in civic engagement. With that said, to Tim's point, an innovative university needs people that make things happen and really run it operationally. So we have administration, operations, dining centers, and labs, and each and every employee across the university plays a role in our overall mission for a better, brighter world. Tim, did you want to speak real quick on the different locations?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have 4 primary campuses. Obviously, Medford Somerville is the one probably geographically closest for people going through the Somerville Center. And so that is the primary undergraduate school, and we have graduate programs. Boston is what we call our medical campus. So the med school, the dental school, the nutrition school. There's a human research center also that's affiliated with the federal government. So that would probably be our second largest campus, and is located in the Theater District area of Boston, very accessible on public transportation. So if people are open to positions in the Boston campus, in the Fenway, the School of the Museum of Fine Arts is a Tufts program as well. So they have undergraduate and graduate degrees, and it's geographically located near the Museum of Fine Arts. And so we've been part of them for about the last 5 years. And then Grafton is our veterinary school, which is a master's program and a doctoral program. And that is about 40 miles west of Boston, sort of towards Worcester. So, but job-wise, I'd say 80% of the positions are Boston or Medford. And that's the majority of what you'll see on our career board.
Excellent. And then in terms of benefits, and Meredith, I know when we dive into dining, there's some variations, but we have it all in terms of, you know, ensuring that you and your family are supported if you have family, you know, health benefits, medical, dental, vision, life, a couple different options there. We have a 401(a) retirement savings plan, which is really amazing because, you know, in the corporate world, you might have heard of 401(k), which they say, you know, typically employers, you put in a certain percentage and you may get matched a certain percentage, which is quote unquote free money. But this is literally free money dropped into a fund for you, depending on your age. If you're 21 to 39, it's 5% of your annual compensation. If you're 40 plus, it's 10%. The catch with that, that I always like to tell folks is it's what they call a 3-year vesting cycle. So, you know, if you leave the university before your 3 years has commenced, you do forfeit that funds that have been put aside for you because it's 100% employer funded. And anyone correct me if I'm not correct there, but and if you were to leave anytime after the 3 years when you're fully vested, the money is yours to leave in the fund, transfer, take with you. And I mean, the thing I think is great about the 401(a) retirement savings is, you know, for folks that might be early in their career or simply, you know, depending on your individual circumstances, it's really hard sometimes to put away money for retirement and think about what's going to happen, you know, 10, 20, 40 years down the road. You know, good gosh, I hope we all make it there. But sometimes it's we need money now and I've got to keep the lights on and pay the bills. So the fact that the university is thinking about that for you and putting away money, I think is just phenomenal. You also have the option to contribute to a 403(b), which is employee funded. So if you wanted to be aggressive in terms of your savings, you have that option as well to put away pre-tax from your compensation. Education, and keep me honest, Meredith and Tim, I believe you have the opportunity to take 2 courses per semester once you've been here 3 months. Certainly if it's for credit, if you're matriculated as a student, you'd have to be able to get into the program, admitted ultimately. If you wanted to pursue, you know, passion and take a course at the SMFA, that's an option. Either of you, I'm sure you've both dug into those benefits, the education benefit more. Do either of you want to elaborate on that?
Yeah, that's correct. So it does undergraduate and graduate degrees all qualify, although there might be different tax implications if it's a graduate program. But 2 classes per semester. To get a degree, you do need to apply and get accepted into the program. And it is tuition, so there are other fees associated with it, but the tuition, I actually was just speaking with somebody over in engineering. So a class is usually about $4,000. So you can think of taking a class as a $4,000 savings, at least the engineering master's program classes. but yeah, you can take them just for credit. You can take them to apply towards a degree. And we also have tuition reimbursement, which is you're eligible after a year for classes you take outside of Tufts that are pre-approved and that you meet the eligibility requirements for, but you can get reimbursed up to $4,000 each year towards classes outside of Tufts.
This is why I love having other people, because I don't remember all the time. There's tuition reimbursement and tuition remission. So opportunity to continue your education either at Tufts or outside of Tufts and be either reimbursed or be able to submit through those programs. Did either of you want to touch on some of the flexibility, or we do have some remote opportunities, and we'll go through the careers site, or some of the wellness benefits, time off?
Yeah, happy to. So recently, and certainly since COVID, we've been offering a lot more flexibility. For example, HR is almost fully remote. We have, of about 200 jobs, I think about 80 or so that are hybrid, and posted at the moment, there's about 8 or 10 that are fully remote. And that just happens to be what the mix is now, but a lot of positions offer a lot of flexibility. Hybrid differs between what the job and the department. Some have fixed hybrid schedules, some are hybrid, come in as needed. So there might be a schedule that works for everyone who might be looking for a hybrid or a remote situation. And so we do offer that. So there's generally flexibility on the hours that people work, unless you're frontline, working supporting students. But a lot of the finance type positions, HR, there's a little bit of flexibility when someone starts in the morning or ends in the day. So it's department and job specific, of course, but we have moved towards a more flexible schedule and a lot more remote opportunities.
Excellent. And then in terms of time off benefits, we have pretty generous time off calendar. We also, of course, with all federal holidays are paid, and we could certainly point you in the direction of our Access Tufts site, so you can see, certainly if you're non-exempt or exempt, hourly employee or salaried, you accrue vacation and time off at different rates, but we could certainly point you in that direction. In terms of wellness and ensuring you can take care of your family, there are some benefits. In terms of, keep me honest, folks, the child care backup benefit through care.com right now, should you have some child care specific needs, or even family member, if you're caring for a loved one that's elder, there's some additional benefits there through our care.com. What am I missing in terms of wellness? I know I'm missing something.
Our gym over on College Ave is open for employees and I believe spouses to use.
So fitness reimbursement as well.
Yeah, if you have a membership, you have to, I think, participate in our healthcare plan. You have to use, as opposed to using an outside provider. But the facilities, they're not quite the same on the Boston campus, but the facilities on the Medford campus, which are excellent and have a pool and a field house and a gym and sauna, and there's actually even on-site sports medicine, physical therapy, things like that, which wouldn't be free, but you could use those resources through your insurance as well. There's a track. There's tennis courts, which I think can be used as long as the tennis team's not using them, things like that. There's outdoor tracks and things like that. So there's it's a nice, very nice perk actually. And the equipment is generally updated every few years, so it's state of the art.
I know you're making me wish I lived much closer to campus. I would take advantage of much more. So hopefully the audience of Somerville Community Corp that's listening today, or even on the replay, does look into Tufts and hopefully can take advantage of these benefits. Anything, Meredith, did you want to touch on anything else?
Yeah, no, I mean, in terms of mental health too, there's also the employment assistance program. That's a really great resource. It kind of encompasses different services if needed, counseling, legal and financial services, dependent care resources, and that can be available 24/7 if needed. So that's a good option if you ever need any kind of anonymous resources. But In terms of some of the operations roles, I do want to just highlight for dining, they are unionized, so they do have different health benefits through their Unite Here healthcare, which we can also show you later on our benefits page overview. But pretty much they would still have access to the same dental and eye care that everybody else at Tufts would get. It just be a different health plan. But overall, the safety team and the facilities both also have the same benefits that the university would have for other staff and faculty, just with consideration with time off that sometimes we are supporting a 24/7 operation. So sometimes those times where you can take off are a little bit different, but still some of those resources and time off would be there, just dependent on the operation. That's kind of what I was going to share with you. Was there anything else?
Yeah, no, that's great.
Okay.
I figured it was helpful to just have you speak to some of those. So yeah, work at Tufts. I mean, we are hiring, and it seems like I've been here since October 2021, and it seems like we're definitely always hiring. Certainly the availability and the types of roles can depend on what's going on at the moment. We, have current open opportunities, as Tim mentioned. Many are hybrid. There are many that are also in person. We're seeing where folks, I'm talking more and more to folks who want to have an in-person on-campus presence in some ways. We do have some fully remote roles. And again, the campuses, Boston, Medford, Somerville, and Grafton, as well as Boston, Fenway. So in terms of the types of roles we have open, we encourage everyone, and we're going to go through some examples of going to our Tufts careers site. The best way to find out more about careers and everything we offer, I would start at jobs.tufts.edu, not to be confused with the student-facing site tufts.edu, which is the overall university site, but anything related to careers, open positions, opportunities, jobs.tufts.edu. And then categories of open jobs, not anything you have to remember because we'll actually go to the site. This is just at a very high level, a snapshot of the different categories from academic programs, accounting and finance, administration management, administrative support, advancement, which is also along the lines of alumni relations, arts, athletics, clinical roles, communications, marketing, dining, facilities, human resources, IT, legal, library, operations, where Meredith has touched on, entails dining, public safety, a number of facilities as well under operations, research roles, research administration, and student services, there's a plethora of opportunities. So what I'm going to do, and if either of you want to speak to those, feel free. I'm going to stop sharing that screen, and I will go to, forgive me, tufts.edu. Oh, sorry, jobs.tufts.edu. To share how we can have you folks search. So if anyone, Meredith or Tim, Meredith, if you're open to kind of speaking while I drive, I'm happy to follow your direction. Let me check.
Sure. Are you sharing your screen, or is it?
I'm going to do it right now.
Oh, okay. Perfect.
Yeah, here we go. Okay. So I have just gone to, and for folks, if you're ever unsure, what I always do is type in many times, even myself, even though I know the site, I will just go careers, Tufts careers. It brings me right to jobs.tufts.edu. Clicking on Tufts University careers here brings me right to the site. So this is the opening page. It tells you a whole lot about some of the things we just reviewed, from our benefits and flexibility to opportunities for career opportunity, growth, development, our commitments to diversity, equity, and inclusion. Certainly, our commitment to being an anti-racist institution, community and social responsibility. There's a whole lot of awesome information. We launched this site last February. It's pretty interactive, so you can click around, clicking through benefits and taking a look. I won't go through it all, but there's a whole lot of information. What section I like to go to is at any point you can type in any keyword, but I usually go right to open positions. Sometimes even for roles that we're supporting or helping when I'm speaking to candidates about what we have open, I like to go right to this site to look at what they can see. So I'll let you speak, Meredith, and as you speak, I will kind of go through the site. Just to point out real quick, kind of the search, sort, and filters down here when you're looking for opportunities.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Mia. I know that there's different ways to find whatever you're looking for. If you know keywords, like 100%, oh, I'm looking for something in dining, you could use keyword dining, and even update the radius or add any kind of location filter. Like if you're looking, oh, I'm only looking in Medford, then you can pull up jobs specific to that campus or where you live. And make it easier. And you can start browsing by clicking on the hyperlink jobs and kind of taking a look at the job description, kind of the day-to-day, and what the requirements are for the job to see if you might be a good fit. And you can always hit back and kind of browse through and use different filters. If you're like, oh, you know what, I'm very open, I have a variety of skills, I can always, take off or clear the categories as well. I know that Mia also found the categories there, but again, if you have something special that you're looking for, let's say you're looking for a management position, you could type in like chef manager and see if something comes up that's similar. We may or may not have something open, but in this situation, we do have a chef manager position open, and you can even, click the apply now if you're like, I've looked at the description and it looks like it's going to be a great fit, and kind of look at the application process to start by entering your contact information and going through our platform called iCIMS. But that's just a different way to see how you can apply directly to the job and kind of get your name in the system and for consideration. Mia, was there something else that you wanted to highlight from this page as well?
Yeah, so certainly many a times, especially when we do career fairs, folks sometimes come up and say, hey, I'm changing course in my career. I'm looking for something entry level. I'd be open to dining. I'd be open to administration. And many times administrative support roles I find are a great way to kind of get your foot in the door, be administrative, program coordinator, admin support. So let me just show you right now, overall, there's 29 admin support roles. There's coordinators, there's even patient registration, which is down there in Boston on the health sciences campus, admin assistant, coordinators for commencement, and don't forget at the bottom here, it'll tell you the total number. So there's 29 roles, so make sure there's 10 per page typically. You can always change that, but just clicking through and taking a look, even events coordinator, opportunities, client liaison, that one is out in Grafton. So just make sure you're looking at the location and categories. But if you said, hey, for SCC folks, hey, I am or am not willing to go into Boston, making sure that you're filtering, if you're not willing to go in, just filtering for the Medford campus. And you can take off, for example, you can search, sort, and filter like, hey, I only want to see the roles across Medford, Somerville campuses. And then you can search that way. So love that we have this, ability, remote eligibility. Hey, I only want a role that's remote. And typically at that point, I would, because of remote eligibility, I would take off the Medford campus, and then there's 8 remote specific examples of opportunities right now. Let's say that you've gone through the site, you're just not seeing something that you feel like you're a fit for right now, but you want to supply your information to us and express interest for the future. You can go down to, to the way bottom, click here to create a profile and select areas of interest. What that does is you're put into the system. We encourage you to upload a resume. So you'll start with your email. I believe it might actually require you to enter your resume. And from there, ultimately, you're supplying us with your information. We do review these entries monthly to see if we can, what I call reverse match, to see if there's current open and posted roles. Very often, our recruiters will get positions, and we start many a times with the system to search for folks that could be a fit. So even if it's, entry level opportunities, do not hesitate to, to search our careers site. Oh, I just kicked myself out. So back to Tufts careers. Sorry about that. Anything, Tim, Meredith, anything else you think worth mentioning here?
Yeah, no, I
think
think
you
you
covered it.
mentioned, so they will get alerts when jobs that match their profile
Yep.
appear, so they can see things so they don't have to constantly log in to see what the latest jobs are. So as long as they pick the appropriate category.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
If I
Any
may.
other questions? Anything from out there from the audience that's worth any questions we can answer or from SCC?
Yeah, I have a question actually. What is your, how quick is your hiring process?
That's an awesome question. And I would say having Meredith and Tim on the call, let them both speak because I think it can really vary based on the group that we're supporting in the role. So I guess I'll let you go first, Meredith, and then I'll have Tim speak and then I'll follow.
Yeah, absolutely. I think for some of the operations roles, it's going to be kind of a varied, it depends. It depends on the hiring season. I know, for example, like dining usually really ramps up right like in like June, July, especially when they're trying to hire for the kids coming back to school. So there's like kind of a seasonality aspect with that. But I know it depends on how urgently they're trying to fill certain positions. Like I know for our police department, we might have like one posting for a police officer, but they're filling multiple spots. So it depends on like where they are in the process. But typically, it can depend on your portfolio. Like my specific group, the hiring managers like to do the first round interview. So it depends on like their pacing. And then they'll come to me and I can review any kind of benefits and answer any questions with them. And then you'll move on to some of our background check references, and depending on which portfolio, like let's say like my security team might have to do a query, or my dining or my facilities team might also have to do a drug screening, depending on like what is required for that role, the job itself. But sometimes that can take a couple weeks just to get through the full process. But I'll definitely let Tim and Mia also speak to what groups they have as well.
Yeah, so in my areas, they tend to do a little. Academia is a little different than some other places I've worked. They do somewhat longer searches. They're a little more thorough. There might be multiple rounds of interviews. And then, of course, once a candidate is selected, we have to go through background checks and references and things like that. Possible multiple rounds of interviews. So it might be a little longer than some places, or particularly the groups I work with. But generally speaking, when a candidate's identified, it's usually about a week to 2 weeks to get all of the checks in place and then negotiate a start date. And then obviously if someone is in a position where they need to give notice, then they're, add 2 or 3 weeks to that. So it seems like once a candidate's identified, you can probably figure 3 to 4 weeks before someone would start. But HR does have to do some what we call due diligence.
Yeah, and to Meredith and Tim's point, I mean, I think more often than not, we don't want to delay. I think, once a requisition is identified and ultimately opened, the hiring manager's need is already there. So they're looking to fill that role sooner versus later. So there's we aim to not drag the process on. I mean, we certainly want to be as expeditious as possible while doing our due diligence. I wanted to make sure we just call out and recognize Leopold's question that was in the chat, which was, what types of jobs do you have in Boston Fenway? Which is great, and just to clarify, there's the Boston Health Sciences campus, which is down there in the Chinatown area, and then Boston Fenway, which is primarily the School and Museum of Fine Arts. So as Tim mentioned, most of our Boston jobs are in the health sciences campus, healthcare related. Down there is the medical school, dental school. There's lots of admin support roles. There's also comparative medicine. So on the entry level side, I've seen even folks to be lab animal caretakers. Doesn't require a whole lot of skills or experience. Folks that are passionate about, animals and about research. I mean, ultimately to make sure that we're humane in the research that we do while utilizing animals. as well as patient registration and administrative support roles, as Tim mentioned. I've seen lots of opportunity there, as well as more recently, haven't seen a lot of central sterilization, but that's really the opportunity to sterilize all the instruments that are used for dental school, for example. In our clinics, there's many floors of clinics in the dental school down there. So lots of opportunities. So make sure you're searching. And then in the SMFA, I haven't seen as many, but I have seen mostly related to student services focused on SMFA, whether it be student affairs, admissions. We last year hired like an art sale manager and art focused roles, but there are administrative support roles and even folks to work in the student store down there as well, I've seen. Let me know if I'm forgetting anything, Tim.
Yeah, we actually right now have a studio manager. So there's about 8 or so different studio spaces. There's digital, there's wood, there's metal, so different types of media that an artist would work with. They have managers that help students learn the equipment, learn safety, teach and train as they're creating different art projects. So those would be staff positions. I think right now there's an opening. I don't know which specialty, but one just opened.
Also, I know Mia on my some of my groups work across the campuses. I mean, specifically for operations, we have to be there to support all the different campuses. So I know, for example, like our security team definitely has different checkpoints at the different Boston SMFA campus, as well as like downtown at like the medical school, and even in Medford have a presence. So you can find a little bit of something for everybody on all those campuses. I think dining, the only place that they don't have a presence is in Grafton, but they should have a location presence for most of the other campuses, and are mostly entry level. A lot of different opportunities to kind of really get experience in a variety of food settings. I know they do stuff with catering, they do retail, so you can have like, a convenience store maybe for like the students on campus that you might be a cashier at, or maybe a catering event where you have the alumni and parent weekend where people are needing box lunches and helping, prep all the food for that. So there are definitely a lot of opportunities across the board, even facilities too. They have a presence at all the locations, HVAC, mechanic, different trades programs as well.
Awesome. One of the things I just also that popped in my head, sometimes when we're searching on the career site, you might say, hey, I don't really have skills or experience in that area. So making sure that you're looking at what is required in the basic requirements section. Sometimes it'll, say skills and experience, typically typically acquired through completion of, and it might mention a degree, but that doesn't mean that you have to have each and every bullet point in there. One of the good example that I've hired folks recently for was a research administration coordinator. And what we've seen in those roles, and Tim can speak to them as well, is really the opportunity to, again, get your foot in the door at the entry level using your program or administrative skills, learn about research administration, which really makes research possible, and the opportunity to professionally develop, grow, and move up within the university. We've seen success, folks getting into pretty high level positions from that route. So, where you might not, it might not resonate a certain title of a role when you're searching the site, don't let that count you out for submitting your application for something.
Yeah, absolutely. They will train if they with somebody who has an eye for budgets, or doing reconciling accounts payable and accounts receivable, and then work their way up. Research administration, grants administration is a huge career path in the Boston area. Every school, every hospital, every research institution is always looking for good people and will train, and we do as well. So it's a great career path where you don't have to know a lot going in, just be willing to learn, and then it's really the sky's the limit.
I have a question. Do you provide visa sponsorship?
We will on occasion. So there's several different scenarios. Research tends to do it more because they're looking for a particular skill set. So if somebody brings something to the table that's hard to find, a niche set of skills. We do hire people on OPT all the time. So when they graduate, they can get a couple years experience, particularly in positions where we would expect sort of normal turnover, like a research assistant or a research technician. Whether they will or won't sponsor at the end of the 2 or 3 years is up to the department, but we do get a lot of students coming out of programs that work here to get experience. I would say the majority of positions we don't, but there are occasions where where a lab, particularly a lab or a high level position, might sponsor.
And just to tap into Leopold's question, she asked, how do you find the wage on each position?
So we are moving towards wage transparency, but we're not there yet. So we don't post grades or pay ranges at the moment.
Sure.
But when we identify candidates, we do talk about compensation and try to make sure we're in line with expectations. So we do try to keep up with the market, so we're competitive. So what the other schools pay is probably a good estimator of what we would pay for a similar position. We do salary surveys and comp analysis all the time, so we're competitive. Academia is obviously different than other industries. So if you're working for Amazon and you work for Tufts, that's sort of two different pay scales. But in the world of academia or even healthcare, we're sort of compatible on the comp side. So to answer your question, we don't post, but we do try to identify that we're in the expected range with candidates early on, so that we move forward appropriately.
Awesome. Leopold, would you happen to have any other questions?
Yes, I do. My first question is, let's just say like you live in Medford, right? You apply, you're working there. Then after like 6 months, you move to Boston and you want to work in Boston instead. So how long do you have to be in that position in Medford before you can either transfer if it is possible, or apply for a job in Boston?
I don't believe we have a firm policy about time, but we do like someone to at least get through their first 90 days in a positions and get through that successfully. So so people do apply and cross positions and promote and switch campuses all the time. We don't hold anybody particularly to a timeline of how long they need to be in a position. A hiring manager who brings somebody in would probably like to get a few years out of somebody after training and onboarding and teaching the specifics of the role. So there's a hope that someone would stay within a role, a year or two and learn, and so that the department can get some value out of that hire. But there's no firm policy.
And I would just to kind of follow to that is typically, if you started in Medford and you moved to Boston and identified an opportunity in Boston, I would say, more often than not, there'd have to be an opportunity. You're more than welcome to apply to it. Keeping in mind that typically to make a transfer, there's a requirement of a manager to manager reference. So I think it's always good practice to have that conversation with your current leader manager, and you should feel like you can have that conversation. Hey, I've moved, if it's a bit more of a hardship to make it out to Medford, or even start to have conversation with somebody in HR in terms of the types of roles that you want to consider that are within the pay range that you can afford to take in your next opportunity. The nice thing though, between Boston and Medford, of course, as we've all seen with the recent T-stop, the Green Line extension that's now there. So it's easier than ever to get between the two locations. But there's certainly, to Tim's point, there's no hard and fast rule. But I think it's always good to establish yourself as, in good standing as an employee with one manager or supervisor, because then they'll typically be your best cheerleader should you want to make a switch in the future.
Also, for some of the union roles, you might, depending on how long you've been in that position, you might be able to switch over easily. Internal hires, at least for the union positions, are typically prioritized first with that tenure and seniority going towards different schedules and locations too. That's at least for dining, and some of the facilities roles are union as well as some of the police roles, but that's just me.
Okay, I have another question. Do you provide paid employee training and development courses?
We do have in-house training and development. So we do offer classes through our training and development team, which is part of HR. So they will offer classes for new employees to learn systems like Outlook or Excel or PowerPoint. And then if someone's on a managerial track, then they have a program where they can learn things like having difficult conversations, how to do a performance review, how to become a hiring manager. So anybody that shows an interest in moving into management or supervising, we offer trainings for things like that. Some departments have individual budgets that they can spend on training and development within a specific group. So if someone wants to attend a conference or join a professional organization, that would come from department funds, and that's really subject to how much they have budgeted. Within HR, like we can join SHRM, we can join NERA, which are two HR professional associations. 1 or 2 people a year might attend a conference. Those are a little more expensive. So that's, with HR, the budget can handle maybe somebody or 2 people going to a conference, but everybody joining a professional association. So it's department specific how much money they have for things like that. But within Tufts, we do have lots of in-house training, classroom training, automated online training, things like that.
How about say that a person wants to work in your cleaning department or even security? Is it a third party, or do you go straight to Tufts in their programming?
So I know our security team has its own hiring manager, so it'd be directly through Tufts. Our security, we have a security officer 1 position that is more entry level, kind of like staying on campus at a checkpoint, helping to make sure buildings and the right people have access, or helping students with the lockouts. And so they would have like their own training and development within the hiring manager's scope. But I'm trying to think, like cleaning, I don't know. I don't think I have any specific cleaning roles open at this time, but usually most of our stuff is in-house. They might do a little bit of temp hiring for some of our roles that are vacant at the moment, but that's usually through a group that is organized through MetaProcure through the university, from my understanding. But there's most of our hiring managers, if the job's posted online directly on Tufts University, it is an open position directly through Tufts. Hopefully that answers the question. I'm just making sure. Okay.
Okay. Leopold, would you happen to have any more questions?
It's similar. It is similar to what I previously asked. So let's just say somebody wants to work for Tufts University, right? And they take an admin position just to get in, but that's not necessarily what they want to do. They probably want to be in different fields. So how long would that take for them to be in the let's just say admin? They're in the admin position. How long does it take for them to stay in the position and to apply for the actual position they actually want? That's the first question. The second question, because that person is already in the system, let's just say they get paid $40,000, right? That person accepted because they want to work for Tufts University, but the type of position that they probably want probably pay $50,000. So the second question is because you guys you are paying the $40,000, so you still have the upper hand to negotiate instead of let's say it's the range is 50,000 to 60,000. Would you guys, because you already know how much that person's pay is getting 40,000, do you guys decide to give the minimum, or do you guys do a fair salary rate increase?
Yeah, these are
Yeah.
good questions.
Yeah.
And one thing I would quickly say is to your first question, I would say it depends on, you know, the role you're starting in, the area department you're interested in going to. And I'll let Tim elaborate more, but making sure we highlight that Tufts is very much focused on pay equity. So that's something of consideration that we review. Go ahead, Tim.
Yeah, we don't necessarily bring people in at the minimum, and we do not pay people based on their salary history. So it's really more based on equity, and the budget, obviously, and the experience someone brings in. So you could be in one job and then see another job that you feel qualified for, and you would be compensated, or the offer would be based on the experience you bring and what we are paying others with similar experience here. So equity, as Mia mentioned, is a huge, huge priority at Tufts. We want to pay fairly. So we do not hold people back because they're in jobs that pay less and then sort of perpetuate that. We do look at experience. So it would not necessarily be somebody at the bottom. But if you kind of meet the baseline qualifications and don't have really much over and above that, then you could be closer to the bottom. But again, we do not pay based on people's salary history.
And just to jump off of Tim Tail on his basically the same compensation evaluation applied to salaried roles, but again, just applying it to some of the union positions, some of the union roles are set rate, or sorry, all the union rates that we have are going to be set and not negotiable, but then it is equitable because everybody would be getting the same pay in that rate. Again, with the tenure going towards maybe a better schedule or a location that's preferred as like the means of negotiating. But in terms of the other salary, the same type of review is done for like other kind of managerial positions within like dining or facilities.
I did want to make sure that, as promised earlier in the presentation, that I at least show you all how to navigate to the benefits for Tufts. I'd be remiss if I didn't. So just to point out to you, I'm just sharing my screen real quick, access.tufts.edu/benefits. You can go right here to this site and click on, we recruit for the staff position, so you can explore, you know, a plethora of the benefits here, what's offered. Keeping in mind, this will be the most up-to-date resource because we might, you know, from year to year or, you know, change vendors for different benefit services we have, but it is very detailed. It can take you through, you'll see our 2023 benefits guide, retirement savings, and going, you know, the health plan options, flexible spending accounts, as well as, you know, time off, perks and discounts, more about the tuition remission and reimbursement. So I wanted to make sure I at least showed you how to navigate to that.
This is all great information. I'm just like, I'm excited because you never know what, you know, everybody thinks right away, Tufts University, I'm going to deal with a school and not really all the extra things are off to the side. So to hear that you have so much different companies that we could do within Tufts University, this is really awesome. So thank you for showing this. I don't know if Leopold, if you have any more questions, or if you have anybody has any more to say within, you know, what we're talking about now, but this is really cool. I appreciate it all.
Oh, thank you so much. And I welcome, you know, especially Leopold or, you know, if someone's watching, listening to the replay on YouTube, feel free to connect with Tim, Meredith, or myself on LinkedIn. It's one of our favorite tools. And you can always mention in the request, like, hey, you know, saw you on the SCC, you know, networking cafe, because we want to make sure that we're connecting up and we can help you navigate different opportunities at Tufts and have conversations with you.
Yeah, thank you. And again, like, we have your information, so if any of the participants want to connect, we'll definitely connect them to you. Should we connect them directly to you, Mia, or just you, Tim, or Meredith? Like, who?
I mean, you can always reach out to me. I can always, you know, depending on if they're interested in a particular role, depending on whose portfolio, I can also share that out. But yeah, you're certainly welcome to connect them with me. I wanted to just check in with Tim and Meredith. Any kind of closing thoughts before we wrap up in a bit?
I would say put your resume in our system if you don't see something, set up alerts. We are right now, I think, about 200 jobs, which is back to sort of normal numbers from our past, where during COVID things had spiked and slowed down. So we're constantly filling jobs. The job board changes. If you look now or you look at a month, you'd probably see 40 or 50 different jobs at any time. So come back and look, get your resume in there, set up some alerts, and good luck in your search.
Yeah, and I guess my best tip is just making sure anytime you're applying to a couple different roles, if they're in the same thing, just making sure you're tailoring your resume to those job description items, just making sure you make yourself in the best light as having the skills that match what they're looking for from the hiring manager. So that's one of my takeaways. And just a side note, I feel like I get this asked all the time at different hiring events, so I just want to make sure I address it. But I feel like a lot of people ask, like, oh, do I get to sign up for my benefits right away when I'm an employee? And the answer is you do get to sign up within the first 30 days for your benefits. So you don't have to wait a trial period. You don't have to wait for an extended amount of time. You do get to sign up right away. So I just want to make sure I highlighted that.
And they get backdated to your start date. So even if you don't have your insurance card or number, you can always bill back, just so you know you're covered as of your first day of employment, even if you haven't signed up for your benefits yet, which I think is always kind of awesome to know that you're covered. The other thing I would say, kind of shameless plug, I don't know when the next SCC career fair will be. We had a presence last May, and we would love to participate in the next one. So if you're listening to the replay, or Leopold, we invite you, we plan to participate whenever that next event is. We'd love to meet you in person.
Yeah, we would definitely love to have you back too. So yeah, this is great.
It was awesome. We had a blast last May there. So we missed October, but we're excited to participate in the next one when you have it on your calendar.
Please, that would be awesome.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you. Thank you for showing up and participating in this. Thank you, Leopold, for being here as well. All right, everybody.
You're welcome.
The ending
Bye,
of
everyone.
Thank you. Have a great day. Bye-bye.
Bye now.
Bye.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.